Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Saberminded Baseball Podcast. I'm Dawson Wright here, joined by Noah Wright. And Noah, how's it going?
It's going good.
It's been an interesting last couple days. We had Adam Ottavino sign with the Yankees, so now their bullpen is basically overpowered. But there's been a lot going on since there's been nothing going on. There have been some players that have been coming out saying, like, oh, this is a problem. Players aren't getting their money because Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, Keuchel, Craig Kimbrel,
are all still on the market.
Yeah, guys like that, they're still on the market. So, Evan Longoria, he posted a photo on Instagram that had Harper, Machado, Kimbrel, and Keuchel in it. And the caption said, "We are less than a month from the start of spring, and once again, some of our game's biggest stars remain unsigned. Such a shame. It seems every day now someone is making up a new analytical tool to devalue players, especially free agents. As fans, why should we value for your team even be a consideration? It's not your money, it's the money that players have worked for their entire lives to get that money and be deserving of. Bottom line, fans should want the best players and product on the field for their team. And as players, we need to stand strong for what we believe we are worth and continue to fight for the rights we have fought for time and time again." We are going to sort of break that apart. Noah, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, I kind of want to... I always hear the, it's not your money, or it's not your team, when someone says, oh, I enjoy watching, my team's the blank. Someone will say, oh, well, is it real? Are you really part of the Pirates? Like, well, of course not, but you're a fan, and, like, fans are also a big part of baseball. Mm-hmm. But saying that's your money is like, I don't like this TV channel. It's like if your favorite TV channel you don't like anymore because they don't post good show, because they don't show good shows anymore. Mm-hmm. That's like saying, well, why should you matter? It's not your TV network.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of saying, like, oh, you know, just if you're not a part of something, then your opinion doesn't matter, which I think is a really weak argument.
Dumb way of,
Yeah, I mean, there's parts of this that I agree with, like when he said, bottom line, fans should want the best players and products on the field for their team, which...
Yeah, but I also care about the future of my team, too.
Yeah, which is where it kind of crosses lines. Because...
because he's acting like it's such a big commitment with money and stuff for the players. You know, it's still a big commitment for the team to deal that player the $300 million they want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, like, you know, when he says, like, oh, you know, it's a shame that these stars aren't signed yet, which I agree. I agree with that. That sucks. But it's just kind of the way the market's been when we have to adjust. And then when he says someone is making up a new analytical tool to devalue players, that is false.
A problem.
Because if anything, it's the opposite. They're using it to show the actual value of players. It's not, it's not, we don't use WAR to be like, oh, he sucks. We use it to try and show the actual value
of a player.
Yeah, instead of looking at...
Especially for teams that can't afford those $300 million contracts. They need to use... Mm-hmm. They need to find other ways of winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not every team is out there trying to contend right now, so that knocks off like half the teams. Not everyone wants to pay $300 million for a shortstop or an outfielder, which is around $30 million a year if it's a 10-year deal. And Harper and Machado are both asking for more, trying to break Stanton's record-setting deal.
Record on his extension.
Yeah. And, you know, as fans, this is what Evan Longoria said, as fans, we should want the best players and products on the field for our team. And looking at the analytics that devalue players, we can tell that signing guys to $30 million deals is a bad idea.
Yeah.
So you're right. We do want the best, which is why we don't want this.
Yeah.
This is why teams don't want this.
There's a reason the Angels might not be able to extend Mike Trout. It's because of Albert Pujols.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the Angels would basically just have Trout play on their team, you know? Like, if they couldn't afford other contracts, oh well. But, yeah, teams have learned. Like, some of these guys, fair enough, some of these guys aren't old, like Pujols was. Pujols was, what, 31 when he signed that deal with the Angels?
I think about 31.
Yeah. Trout and Machado are both 26. So, I could see where you're coming from there, but still, it has been proven.
Teams don't want to risk that.
Yeah, it's been proven time and time again. We might talk about it on different episodes of the show, but that signing players to big money deals, paying guys $30 million a year if they aren't the Trout level player, which nobody is really besides Mike Trout right now.
Yeah.
It's not good for the long term, period. It doesn't matter if you're contending, if you're not contending, if you're stuck in the middle void like the Pirates are. It doesn't matter where your team is at. It's not a good idea.
I'm sure the Yankees, even though they're the Yankees and they're extremely rich, they're gonna have to take into consideration the fact that Giancarlo Stanton's gonna make about $30 million a year if they want to try and extend Judge or Sanchez or somebody like that. It's gonna
be over $30 million by that time. It's gonna be like 34.
I think at most he can make $32 million. That's still a lot though.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets more like as he gets older, which really just makes it worse. You know, especially because you're thinking his strikeout rate's probably gonna get a lot faster. He's gonna get a lot slower. So those aren't a good combination between the two.
By 2021, he's gonna make $29 million.
Yeah, I just have a problem with players. You know, when it's. I mean, I understand you worked for this for years, like your entire life. Basically, right?
Yeah.
But if it's a difference of $5 million, like 5 to 10 million, does it really make that much of a difference?
Yeah, it's like, are you sure that you're not going to be able to live off of $25 million?
A year?
Yeah.
It's like, guys are getting like $25 million a year, and they're like, oh no, I need $28 million. Like, really?
Why?
I mean...
I remember that happens with arbitration. I think it happened last year with Betances. And Betances in arbitration, Betances wanted like $2 million more than the Yankees were willing to offer him.
Yeah, it gets really, I don't know, kind of in a scuffle for no reason. I think because like if players want to sign big contracts and you get agents like Boris who try and get the most money, that's fine. But if we're talking about like $3 million or less for like a season, right?
Yeah.
And you're already making like plus 20, you'll be fine.
You'll live.
Yeah. You shouldn't be that irresponsible with your money.
That you need an extra $5 million added on.
Yeah. I just really don't understand why it seems a lot of guys, like even guys that came up in like let's say 2008 to like 2011 are like kind of against analytics. I mean, it's probably just because they aren't making as money as before because teams are
as much money as before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And teams are just learning like, hey, that's a bad idea. Let's not do that. Let's not do an Angels and sign Josh Hamilton, Albert Pujols, and C.J. Wilson to these massive deals.
Well, to be fair, C.J. Wilson did good, but I mean, 1 out of 3 when you're paying each one like $25 million a year isn't good.
Did C.J. Wilson even do to the level that they paid him?
I mean, he did okay.
I mean, I don't know. That's tough. It's just, yeah, I respect them as players, you know, saying like, you know, we want to fight for the values that we think we're worth, which is true. I just think they're having an issue when, you know, the value's going down, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and CJ Wilson didn't play to his value. He only had a 3.87 ERA, which is okay, and he's getting paid 11 to 20 million a year between 2012 to 2016, and I don't even think he played in 2016. Yeah, he was injured.
Yikes. That's tough. But, like, I mean, it's not like it's, like, decreasing for certain guys necessarily. It's just decreasing across the board.
Yeah.
So, like, you see this, like, because players saw this inflation, right? Where guys like Pujols and stuff were getting, these big money deals even when they were, like, 30, right? Yeah. So, if you see that as a player, you see that coming, you're like, oh, when I hit free agency, I'm going to get these big contracts. Then you have last year, and everything just kind of stopped. Like Arrieta was looking for what, like an 8-year deal or something?
Yeah, he was looking for like 300 million or like 250 million. I'm not sure exactly, but Boris put out some ridiculous number, and everyone was like, "Well, he's definitely not going to get that because just looking at it, he's getting older, and if you look at his numbers." Since 2015 season where he did amazing, it's just been like slowly going downwards. And this year he had an ERA above 4.
Yeah, I feel like they've just been kind of trained, seeing like when Jacoby Ellsbury went to the Yankees for all that money, and even Stanton getting that massive extension from the Marlins. Every player wants their fair share, which I understand.
What Longoria said reminds me of, kind of sounds like something Grandal said a few days ago. Did you hear what Grandal said?
Oh, yeah. Was he saying, like, He
said, I felt like part of my responsibility as a player was to respect the guys that went through this process before I did. Those guys who established pay levels and markets for upper-tier catchers like me.
Mm-hmm. And then he signs a 1-year deal that's, like, what, wasn't it less than $1 million more than what the Dodgers offered him in a qualifying offer?
I think it was $1 million more, because I'm pretty sure the
Dodgers was
qualifying
17.
offer was 17 million.
It was 17.9,
and he got
like
1 year 18. He got 18.25 million, I think.
So he got like a couple $100,000 more, and a mutual option.
Good job.
All right. All right, man. If that's what he thinks is, I don't know.
He's worth, then all right.
It's a couple $100,000 more with a mutual option.
Yeah.
That's not really that much of anything, but
they turned down some long-term offer with the Mets, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's okay, because he thought he was getting lowballed by the Mets, I guess, and he said he wanted to play for a contender, so that was kind of a bit of a roast on the Mets. Yeah, that was a bit of a shot at the Mets, but we are going to be taking a quick break, and when we are back, we will be talking about pitching wins and why they're terrible, and also saves.
Yeah. I love her off. Says she love me, but she cut me off. Yeah, late nights on the boulevard, hitting stains on an empty heart, yeah.
Alright, we are back, everyone, and we are going to be talking about the ineffectiveness of pitching wins and saves. So, the history of pitching wins, it was basically like, it was kind of like the early sabermetrics, basically, for something to value players, and it actually made sense back in the day, because in 1888, pitchers finished 96.4% of the games that they started, which is basically incredible.
Insane if you think about that in today's world.
Yeah, but, I mean, it was basically like, unless you pass out, or die, then you're finishing this game. That's basically what it was like.
Oh, your arm's a little sore. We have 3 more innings to go. You'll be fine.
So it was basically like whoever's team won, or kind of like whoever pitched better, I guess, got the win, because you would have both sides, both pitchers going the distance.
All 9 innings.
So it's who allows the least amount of runs gets the win, which that makes a lot of sense. Problem is now, bullpens are becoming used more than ever. So you can kind of see where pitching wins are starting to get really ineffective.
Yeah, like there's not very many guys anymore that even go 7 innings. Like only 8, like a team's ace goes 7 innings anymore, and that's about it.
Yeah,
even then.
Yeah, it's getting rare. I've barely seen guys go 6. Like 6 and 5 seem to be like the sweet spot right now. for unless a guy's rolling, you'll see him go 6 or 5 innings, and then the bullpen comes in, and bullpen records are the worst. Like when it shows like the record on screen for like a reliever, you know, he could have like a 0-3 record, but have like a .2 ERA, right?
Yeah, because it like sometimes they'll just be thrown into the worst situation possible, and they'll give up 1 run, and that'll be it, and that's the deciding run.
Yeah, and then they'll take the loss, or someone on their team makes an error, right? And then
because wins and saves and stuff don't account for errors.
Yeah, don't account for errors. Don't account for really anything situational. It's just who gave up the winning and losing run. And if you're a pitcher, you have to go, 5 innings, right, to get the win?
5 innings, yeah.
Yeah. So pitching wins are getting really, like, especially last year with DeGrom, who had a 10-9 record and a 1.7 ERA, wins the Cy Young, and it's just he got no support from his team, but you still have people saying, oh, his record's terrible, he shouldn't win Cy Young.
Look at his ERA.
I know.
Look at all his other numbers. But if all of his other numbers besides his record are elite to really good to elite, then why would he not be qualified for the Cy Young?
Yeah, look at his FIP. Look at WHIP. Look at anything. Like there's so much to look at, and when you're looking at just things off face value, like even if you're just looking at his record and ERA, right? Record, not so good. ERA, amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Like, that's not telling the whole story anymore. There are reasons we have these new analytical tools that devalue players, as Evan Longoria likes to say. It's because it shows really how good they were. And DeGrom had a really historical season, which is... And it was. Do you have any idea what his WAR was last season?
According to Baseball Reference, it was 10 on the dot. In comparison, the Orioles had 47 wins, so DeGrom was worth about a fourth of their wins.
So he had basically as many wins as his WAR. That's incredible. I remember towards the end of the season, there were some stat heads we were cheering about, like we were cheering that DeGrom doesn't get any more wins towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
so he has a
I
higher
remember
WAR.
he almost had. I think it was the last game I remember watching, and it was like really close, and the Mets just barely won.
Dude, everyone wanted him to have a higher WAR than wins. Which that would have been pretty hilarious. But yeah, pitching wins, there's not really much to say on it anymore. Even basically it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, because you could have horrible numbers in everything else.
Yeah.
And still have a really good record but horrible numbers in everything else.
Yeah, and then you'll get guys on ESPN that still say you have to win the game. I'm sorry, Jacob deGrom can't play all 9 positions. But let's move on to saves. Saves are kind of similar to pitching wins in that they're situational. Yeah. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's with nobody on base, it's 3 runs, right? Is a save
Within
situation.
3 runs, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this can kind of go 2 different ways, because like I think using that to value a reliever is good and bad, because it kind of shows how they are in clutch situations sometimes, but I wouldn't say all save opportunities are clutch situations, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're up 3 in the 9th to, I don't know, the Royals, and
is it really that much of a clutch situation?
Yeah, in a game in the middle of June, I don't think that's a clutch situation. But if it's like a 1-run lead and you're facing the top of the Yankees order and you shut it down, then yeah, I would say that's a clutch
But
situation.
both of them are weighed the same, according to saves.
Yeah, and they would both be the same thing. It's kind of like how we were talking about last episode with batting average, where I don't think it's fair to value those two things as the same
Where a
thing.
single is the same thing as a home run and batting average.
Yeah. Singles and home runs are not the same. 3-run lead versus the Royals versus a 1-run lead versus the Yankees in New York facing the top of the order is not the same thing. So I feel like if you want to look at situations, you're probably going to have to look at it in specific games instead of just a general statistic, unless someone came up with a statistic or you took into account opponent strength, whether it was like a 3-run lead or a 1-run lead, and then maybe sort of blend that together to see whether it is a clutch situation, add in home or away. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could go with that. I mean, there's still stuff that factor in like crowd, but I wouldn't really see crowd, factoring into a statistic like that. Like it'd be kind of funny, but I don't think it would.
How many times does a crowd actually contribute to a player's performance?
Yeah, because like
I can think of like one instance and that's it.
Like I would say even then, like I would say a packed Yankee Stadium is, more, I don't know, stressful than a packed Marlins Park, right?
Yeah, because Marlins Park is never packed.
Well, like, if Marlins Park was packed, I would say Yankee Stadium, because just the vibe that you sort of get from places like Yankee Stadium,
in New
Fenway
York
Park, right? Like, playing a game at, let's say it's 10 o'clock, you're coming into the save on the road at Yankee Stadium, is different from playing the Marlins with 40,000 Marlins fans in there at 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Or
it also depends on, like, the team situation. Like, is this team
contending.
Is this team, like, a win away from getting to 500 or getting one win away from clinching their playoff spot?
Does this game matter? Are you on the Marlins or are you on a contending team?
Yeah.
There's so many factors that would go into something like this. It'd be probably impossible to look at. You'd probably basically just have to look at specific games and specific environments to do that, to level players separately. Like, you'd actually have to, like, go back and watch the game footage to see what it was like if you want to see, like, if a closer is clutch or not, right? If you want to see, like, someone can have similar numbers to somebody else, right? Yeah. But then in the postseason, they could turn into Mariano Rivera or Andrew Miller, right?
Or they could turn into Jerry's Familia, who has a history of not doing good in the playoffs.
Yeah, so that's something teams would probably look at if they're looking to trade for a closer.
Yeah, because I remember back in the 2013 wildcard game with Cueto, how the Pirates fans, they got under his skin, and I think, kind of messed with him in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole Cueto.
Yeah.
Cueto. You had those chants, and they, like, dropped the ball, and then he gave up a home run, right?
Yeah. He dropped the ball when Russell Barton was up, and then the next pitch he gave up a home run, so...
Yeah.
There's some impact like that, where it's like, the fans are trying to get under the player's skin.
Or like when they were behind home plate in Philadelphia, when all the fans were mocking Kimbrel. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was a good time. But
those instances are like few and far between where the fans have like directly impact the game.
Mm-hmm.
Instances like that.
I would say saves though have more like are more of a reliable stat than wins.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know. I feel like saves, like, it's... People get thrown into save situations more often, like closers. But, like, pitching wins can kind of really go either way.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna base a closer on just their
Saves,
because
yeah.
Wade Davis, if you looked at it, he had 43 saves, which led the entire MLB or the National League at least, and he had a 4.13 ERA, 3.65 FIP, which FIP that's average. 4.13 that's pretty high for a closer, and he was even considered for the best relief pitcher in the National League. I remember seeing that on MLB.com. And then you had Felipe Vasquez, who had an ERA under 3, and I don't think he was given consideration for it.
Yeah. I would say that that I would use saves probably a little bit, but I'd really like to look at watts per 9 and especially strikeouts per 9 when looking at closers, because the higher strikeout per 9, we all know the strikeout rate's been rising, the better, because balls in play, you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And watts per 9 is really important. You don't want to give the other team
You don't
momentum.
want a guy that's walking 5 people per 9.
Yeah, you don't want to give them momentum in a late inning situation. That's never a good sign. But
yeah,
I think this was a pretty good episode for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you enjoyed and you're listening on YouTube, be sure to drop a like, and if you're new, subscribe to our channel. Everyone listening on Spotify, be sure to give us a follow. We are also on Google Play Music, and soon we are going to be on Apple Podcasts as well. But thank you again, everyone, for listening, and we will see you all in the next episode.